Good morning. Today we get to troubleshoot a no start condition in this this excavator up here, the Bobcat D45, which is running the Doosan Bobcat engine. It's the D24 2.4 liter common rail electronically fired turbocharged diesel engine. Okay, so how do you troubleshoot this without engine software? And that's what we're going to talk about today. And it's easier to troubleshoot a no start condition than, you know, troubleshooting injectors or something like that when the engine actually starts and runs. Because if the engine won't start, there's usually something big wrong. We've either got a really bad injector, we could have, there's a lot of different reasons that an engine won't start, but we're going to go over why this one won't start and how I go about troubleshooting it. So let's gather up some tools, get up the hill, and see if we can get this figured out. What do we know? We don't have a lot to go on other than customer states that they were running the machine. All of a sudden it started smoking, skipping, and the engine died and will not start back up. Now we've already went through the fuel system, made sure we had good fuel quality, you know, no muddy water in the fuel or gasoline to speak of. Already installed a new fuel filter because that's one of the things that our engine is telling us is low rail pressure is the code that we're getting. So when you get a low rail pressure code, of course you always start with fuel delivery, right? We've already checked our fuel lines, made sure there's no kinks in the lines. I've already replaced the fuel filter and again checked the fuel quality. We know we got good diesel to the engine. So why are we getting low rail pressure? Well, that's what we're going to find out. You know, we could hook a computer to it and run some tests, but those tests really aren't going to tell us much. I think we've got an injector problem, and that's where we're going to go straight to, because this is assuming that you've already done everything else on the fuel side and you're still at a loss while you're getting low rail pressure. Again, we're doing this without engine software because we've got a lot more technical ways of troubleshooting injectors. But if you've got a no start condition out in the middle of the woods, out in the middle of nowhere, you don't have a choice. You've got to get the engine running. So how do you do that? Let's get right down into the injectors because that's where we're leaning toward. Like I said, we've already done everything else on the fuel side, so let's get the air box and stuff out of the way and we'll get right back to it. So again, this process will be the same even for a Bobcat loader with the D24. Like I said, this is a 4-cylinder engine, and you're going to have to get the air box out of the way, which I just did here on the excavator, but even on the skid steer you're going to have to get the air box out of your way to get access to the injectors. And the injectors have these little rubber caps here. Now the type of injection system we're working on is a Delphi common rail injection system, and these systems are capable of running around 30,000 psi. Yep, that's correct, 30,000 psi. And although it can reach extreme pressures, that's not a high volume pump, which means it's not pumping a lot of fuel, but it can deliver the amount of fuel needed at high pressures. If we have an injector that's leaking, you know, you've got a return rail here on top of the injectors, and if you've got one that's leaking real bad, it can prevent the pump from reaching the desired rail pressure for the engine to start. Now the rail pressure needs to be somewhere between 3,000 and 5,000 psi for it to start. But we don't know what the rail pressure is because, well, we don't have engine software, right? So here's one thing that we can do to kind of know if we're actually building rail pressure or not. Okay, looking down here is what's called our common rail, and on the end right here is the fuel pressure sensor. If I were to unplug this sensor, the ECU is going to default to full rail pressure, which means while this engine's trying to start, the fuel pump is going to be around 30,000 psi. What does that tell us? Why will that help? What we'll do is we'll start the engine, or try to start the engine with the key, or if you have a helper or whatever, and the engine is going to spin over quickly for a second or two until it builds that rail pressure. And then once it builds that high pressure, you're going to hear the engine, a load on the engine RPM slow down a little bit, like a parasitic load. You're going to hear that pump or the engine struggling to run that pump to build that high pressure with this sensor unplugged. Now, if you unplug the sensor and you hear zero change in the tone of the engine while you're trying to start it, you know, for 5, 6, 7 seconds or whatever, then you know either you're not getting rail pressure to the rail, or you've got injectors leaking so bad that it cannot build rail pressure. So that's what I did, is I unplugged this, I used the starter to turn the engine over, and I heard zero change in load on the engine, which tells me that either the pump itself could have failed and is bad, not causing it to build rail pressure, which is rare. It's rare we lose a pump these days. We could have an IMV fault. The IMV, inlet metering valve, let's see if we can get a shot of that, which is down here on the side of the pump, and that's what regulates our fuel pressure. The IMV valve is a normally open valve, which means no voltage, no current. That valve is wide open. It takes current to close it. Now, it could be stuck closed, preventing us from getting fuel to the rail, but again, that's kind of a rare issue. So we just have to assume that our pump and our IMV is good, because the next easiest thing to do is what we call a static test, or an injector leak test, whatever you want to call it. We have this return rail that goes across the top of the injectors, and that's return to tank. And we have to be careful disconnecting this. We're going to disconnect all 4 injectors. And these are plastic fittings up here in the top, and we can't just simply fix this if we break it. It's hard plastic tube inside there. This isn't just soft rubber hose, or we could make a new manifold. So you have to be very careful when removing this, because if you do break one, we have to replace the whole manifold. I just kind of like to use 2 fingers. There are clamps on there. I don't know, sometimes I take them off, sometimes I don't. See, I can squeeze that clamp, push that back a little bit, and that's going to come off the injector. Same on that one. Same on that one. Same on this one. And this is, you know, what our manifold, our return manifold, looks like. Now again, I'm trying to show you how to do this without any special tools. The only thing that we're going to need is basically 1/8" clear tubing. This is kind of the leak test that I use, but really for the static test, all we need is this clear tubing. The bottles, this is just part of the kit. The bottles we use for a dynamic test, we'll kind of use that to measure the return fuel out of those injectors while the engine's running. But since we have a no start condition, really all we need is this 1/8" clear tubing, and you can get this at Home Depot. So just go buy your little roll of this 1/8" tubing, and that way we're going to hook 1 tube to each one of our injector return lines, and we're going to see how much fuel pushes back out of those lines as we're trying to start it. Now the Bobcat Doosan engine, number 1 injector starts kind of where the fan is, the water pump, the alternator. We would call it the front of the engine. So this would be injector number 1. And then the next one, of course, will be injector number 2. Injector number 3, and of course injector number 4. if you can see, I've got a little mark here on this clear tubing, and that's when we're doing a more precise injector static test. You know, there's a spec on how much leakage should come out of here during a crank cycle of around 10 seconds. And technically, yeah, you're supposed to have the computer to start a static test, which shuts off the electronic part of the injector and just lets the actual leakage of the injector come through there. And that's a more of an accurate test than what we're doing today, because again, we're trying to do this without engine software. Since I've got the 4 tubes hooked up here, I'm going to get ready to start the engine and see if we see any difference in, you know, fuel quantity coming up these tubes. Alright, so we're going to watch these 4 tube lines. If I can kind of get it to where we can see. Okay, you can see the 4 tube lines there. So I'm going to go ahead and start cranking the engine over. Whoa, so right away, what did we notice? That's right, the number 4 injector right here, look how fast it filled up the line. Again, I should have been able to crank that over 10 seconds and not even get up to here. None of the other 3 injectors even had any leakage, because it never built enough pressure for these to even leak, because this number 4 injector is leaking so bad that the high pressure pump cannot get enough volume of fuel into the rail to build enough rail pressure for this engine to start. Now, that doesn't mean that we don't have another bad injector. That just tells me that the number 4 injector is completely shot. It is leaking so bad this engine will not start. So that's where we're going to start, is replacing just 1 injector, see if we can get it started, because once the engine's started, then we can do some more technical, or your dealer can do more technical troubleshooting on the rest of the injectors. So let's get this injector out real quick. So first thing we have to do is get access to the injector hold down assembly, which is under this cover right here. Now we're going to pull off our PCV tube, and we're going to remove this cover here. We're not going to remove our fuel lines, and the reason is it's highly recommended, if you break one of these nuts loose, if you take this injection line off, it is highly recommended that you replace the fuel line. And this isn't just Bobcat trying to get more money out of you. This is a Delphi recommendation, because like I said, we're running 30,000 psi through this tube. Sometimes they're tight and over tightened, and they can deform a little bit when we unscrew them and screw them back on. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to prevent contamination from getting into the system and from any leaks from happening on this line. So I don't want to pull off any of the lines except the one I absolutely have to. But before I get that line off, I've already cleaned as much as I could off the top of the engine. You don't want any dirt up there, anything that's going to fall into the engine when we get this injector out. Try to get it as clean as possible. And now we're going to pull off this small cover, and we can get this cover off without removing the injection lines. We're just going to use an 8mm, and we're going to back out all these screws, and I'll show you how we get that cover off. Now we've got the screws out. Should be able to just wiggle this cover a little bit and slide it right out the side, just like that. And now we've got access to our injector hold down assemblies. But first, I'm going to go ahead and remove the fuel line on the number 4 injector. Set that aside. We're actually going to discard this line. We're not going to keep it. We're going to install a new line. Now, you'll see the injector hold down assembly in here, and we're using a 6mm hex head. Now we're using a good quality 6mm hex Allen head that's not rounded off, because these hold down bolts are tight. you want to make sure you're fully seated all the way down in that nut, because you do not want to strip one of these bolts. Ask me how I know. So we're just going to break this hold down bolt loose, just like that. You hear it pop, and that's what we want. Like I said, you just want a good quality tool to keep from stripping out that bolt there. And then we can remove the bolt in the washer. See, the hold down itself, you might have to kind of wiggle it out, or maybe even raise the injector just a touch. See, it's just a little fork that goes in and holds the injector down. That's all it is. And then we have to unplug our injector. It has a little safety lock on it there. We back that off. And then we unplug our injector. Now we should be able to, sometimes you have to pry these out, but sometimes they'll kind of walk right out for you. Just a little persuasion here. And then here's our injector. One thing you want to watch out for, see this copper ring right here? Now whether you call that an injector spacer, a copper washer, a fire ring, whatever you want to call it, you just want to make sure that that came out with your injector, that it's not stuck down in the hole itself, because we're gonna replace that as well. Just make sure that it's there and not still down in the cylinder, because if you drop a new one in. And that brings me to another point. When you buy an injector, make sure you buy this fire ring. It does not come with it. Now, I recommend sticking with Bobcat injectors, but if you buy aftermarket injectors, whatever, that's up to you. Some of them will not come with this O-ring right here. It's very important to have the correct size O-ring. So just keep that in mind. If you don't buy them from Bobcat, if you buy them online or aftermarket, you may not get this O-ring. You might be able to reuse it, but you know, just something to keep in mind. Now, another misconception, well, it's I'm sorry, it's not a misconception. Again, I keep saying we're working with the Delphi fuel injection system, and this system kind of gets a bad rap. Bobcat Doosan gets a bad rap because of this fuel system. Well, it's not a Bobcat or a Doosan fuel system. They buy it from Delphi, and it's used in all kinds of equipment and even vehicles across the world. I mean, these this is called a C3i. There was a C32. This is a C3i injector, which you can even find these in Mercedes-Benz and all kinds of stuff. But the C3i requires ECU coding. Now there's a 20-digit alphanumeric code up here on top of this injector. Now, why is that important? Each injector has its own code because they have their own unique spray pattern, the way they work. And these are built to such precise tolerances. We're talking about on a microscopic level. I mean, even in the end here, I've never been able to see them, but I've been told there's 7 holes, 7 spray holes in the end of this tip. I say I never see them. With a magnifying glass, you can make out the holes, but it's very difficult to see. And so when these injectors are built, they put them on a test bench, and the test bench, you know, because there's a piezoelectric inside here, that this is not a solenoid, this is piezoelectric, which uses a stack of ceramic plates in here, and under high voltage those ceramic plates will actually expand and move the pintle to allow fuel to inject. So when they put these on the test bench, they get their own unique code to tell the performance of the injector. Okay, And then you're going to need the engine software to reprogram to tell the engine, okay, this is the code I have, this is the performance, this is how the injector works, and the ECU is going to compensate how it fires, you know, the time, you know, the open and close time, and how many times it fires per cycle. Based on that code, reprogram it. So again, it's kind of misconception, but there is some truth to it, is that if you do not program that new code into the ECU, the engine will not start. Well, I'm here to tell you that the engine will start and run without programming that code into it. Will it run at optimum performance? No, because it's still using the old information. It's using the old code to do its compensation on a new injector. So it will not be at optimum performance, but yes, it will start. And then, like I said, this is worst case scenario. You want to get this thing out of the woods into your dealer, and then your dealer or someone with engine software can reprogram that that code file in the ECU for you. So just keep that in mind, that they will at some point need to be reprogrammed, but it's not an absolute must in order to get this engine started. Okay. So here's our new injector, original Bobcat parts. You can see it does come with the new O-ring. Like I said, the aftermarket ones may or may not come with that. More than likely, they will not. And then here's the new fire ring I was telling you about. And one thing you notice is that it's kind of like a crush washer. It'll tighten up around there, and that's why it'll usually come out with the injector. But it's hard to drop the injector down there when that just slides on the tip so easy. And so what I do is I actually put it down in the hole, and I just drop it, and then I use my long pick to make sure that it dropped in square, or flat I should say. That feels good, and then we can probably even see it down in there. Looks good. A little bit of engine oil from inside the engine right around that O-ring, and are ready to install our injector. We just kind of wiggle it down into position. Please don't hammer the top of this injector. I've caught people hammering the top of this injector to get it down and seat it into the engine, and just wiggle it back and forth. Like I said, a little bit of that oil on that O-ring really helps. Okay, our injector hold down. You'll see the flat spots on the injector there. In fact, I'll show you that real quick. See these two flat spots on either side of the injector? That's where that hold down is going to fit down over that. When we tighten that bolt, it's going to push the injector down like that. And reinstall our bolt. Just make sure it starts finger tight. Run it down as far as you can by hand before we put the wrench on it. Good and tight. So that injector is in and torqued to spec. The next thing I want to do is, again, here's the new fuel line. We want to go ahead and install that. We want to do the injector and the fuel line before we start putting everything else together. We're trying to avoid contamination the best that we can. Because again, when we're talking about microscopic tolerances inside that injector, that's all it takes. It takes a microscopic piece of debris, dust, dirt, whatever it may be, to damage that injector. I kind of do these by feel. It's important not to over tighten these injectors. And now we're going to plug our injector back in, the electrical connection it is. And hear it snap, and then we're going to push the little lock back in. Now I'm ready to put my injector hold down cover back on. But I'm carefully going to wipe this surface if I got any dust on it, because this is where there's actually an O-ring on that cover that seals, and we don't want any dirt or debris under that. So I'm going to just take my time here, try not to wipe any dust into the engine, you know, wipe away from the hole when possible. And let's just clean up this surface and get ready to put that cover back on. Again, trying to avoid getting any dirt inside the engine. Okay, so that surface is nice and clean. Check the condition of our O-ring on the bottom of this cover. It looks good. Usually you don't have to replace them. It doesn't, I've never really had one leak. And the cover has little dial pins on it. It kind of centers itself there. While I'm putting these in, I just kind of want to talk about why we went straight to injector, okay? And the reason we did is, well, we didn't go straight to injector. We had to verify a few things first. But if you have a no start condition, you will usually get a code, you know, on your panel. You don't have to have the deluxe screen, just have the, you know, the regular panel, and that's the, you know, if it's low rail pressure, it'll tell you it's low pressure, crank cam sensor, open circuit to the injectors. We start diagnosing with the information we have, and that code, again, you don't need software to get that code. It pops up on the screen for us. So that, and you troubleshoot that specific code. Now, there's like I said, there's multiple reasons why an engine won't start, and it won't always give you a code. For instance, let's say we're working on one of the loaders, you know, 650, 590, it doesn't matter, just one of the Bobcat skid steers. Your engine won't start and you don't get a code. In that case, we usually look for a parasitic hydraulic load. We make sure there's not an additional load put on the engine when trying to start it. Because if the engine can't reach a certain RPM, it will not start. And too many times I get called out where engine won't start and the customer has completely tore this entire fuel system apart trying to get it to start. New fuel filters, you know, they've cracked the lines. And again, that brings me to another point. You never crack the lines on a common rail diesel engine. You don't have to get the air out of the system. It'll bleed and it'll purge itself. Because if you crack those lines again, we're supposed to replace them, right? Not only that, like I said, these systems are capable of making up to 30,000 psi. You don't want your finger anywhere near a system that might have a small leak at 30,000 psi. But brings me back to the parasitic load. I get called out and the customer's completely, I went all the way through the fuel system and it never had anything to do with fuel. That's on a diesel engine. I get it. I understand when you have a no start condition, that's usually one of the first things you go toward is a fuel issue. But you know, usually it turns out to be, you know, without a code or anything, it usually turns out to be hydraulic load, and it usually has to do with a certain valve in the machine or auxiliary valve stuck on or something like that. But that's why it's important to use the information you have, whether you have a code or you don't have a code, and troubleshoot from there. And I'm going to work in the center and work my way out on this cover. And that ensures that it just lays nice and flat all the way across. Just a torque sequence, you know, just like doing a cylinder head or anything else that's long and flat like this. Not tight. These are tiny bolts, little 6 millimeters, but you're using a you know, an 8 millimeter socket on the head to tighten these down. I'm going to go ahead and put our return manifold back onto the injectors. Again, you've got the plastic T here. You want to push on the end of that T to kind of slide that back over the nipples on the injector. If you can't, I know if you can't see that, here's a better shot of it. Here's the little nipple on the back side of the injector that we're sliding that manifold tube onto. Then hook up our PCV valve hose again. All right, now I'm just going to go ahead and put my injector boot covers back on, and then I'm going to put the intake, the air box back on, and then I'll be right back with you and we'll attempt to start this engine. So we've got everything put back together, you know, we've got all our sensors and everything plugged in, we got the air box plugged in. I know it's tempting to start and test the engine to see if what you did actually fix it without putting the air box and everything back on, but again, we're trying to avoid contamination on this engine, and we don't want to risk, because when you start it, this is just a giant vacuum. Anything around it's going to suck dust right through that turbo into the engine. So just take your time, put it all back together, and let's see if this thing will start up to where we can get it down off the hill. All right, I'm currently using the primer bulb to try to prime, you know, fuel up to the injection pump the best I can. Now we're ready to start it. Contact. Woo, yeah, that's what we like to hear. Well, that is great. We got the thing started with just one injector, so now I can get it down off the hill. I mean, that's the reason I wanted to do this injector. See, we're not to where this thing can be towed out of here. It has to be fixed where it's at. We're way up on a hill, kind of out in the middle of nowhere. Yeah, there's a lot of construction going on. We wanted to borrow this guy's big excavator and pick this thing up and pull it out of here. You know, there's options, but the better option in this case was to fix it. So why did I do this video? Because I don't want to share any proprietary information or anything that might be dealer or manufacturer specific or whatever. But the thing is these machines have a life cycle, and what I mean by that is they're going to be retired, like the older machines that we're finding on our grandpa's farm or even our dad's farm, or even for your personal use you're using in your yard. That's where these machines are going to end up, and they're they're highly advanced technologically. They're getting harder and harder to work on as a backyard mechanic. So it's little things, little tips like this that's really going to help us along in the future to keep these machines running. So the other reason I do this video is for you, to help you out. So if you don't mind, just giving me a thumbs up if maybe this information is somewhat useful, whether you needed the information or if you just retain it for a future when you actually have an issue with your machine. But again, when troubleshooting the injector side of it, we have to make sure we have clean fuel. I've found muddy water in the fuel systems, and water will take out an injector and a fuel pump IMB valve faster than anything. I find them with gasoline in there. Yeah, gasoline. It happens a lot more often than you think, where people mistakenly put gasoline in these machines, and that will also wipe out injectors. So confirm fuel quality and fuel delivery. No kinked lines, you know, a clean fuel filter, new fuel filter. If you've eliminated all that, you know you got fuel to your injection pump can handle it from there. So that's just kind of the way we went through troubleshooting that procedure, and we got this thing running. Now that we have it running, we can get it down off the hill, and we can get, you know, back to a dealer, someone certified who can reprogram that injector for me. So let's get cleaned up and get out of here. Thank you for watching. Hopefully that helped.